Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. If you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited me
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like.
I think this might be the craziest moment of the Trump administration so far, and it will most likely be topped tomorrow or the day after. We're a month and 8 days in. Oh, they canceled the press conference? They canceled the press conference? Oh my God. Okay, well, sorry, I apologize. I didn't know they canceled the press conference. And Trump actually kicked them out. I knew they fought. I didn't realize he just got kicked. Oh my God, this literally just happened. I thought I was actually paying attention to what the oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Bro, what the hell? What the hell? What a crazy way to start the day. Holy moly. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. So Trump meets Zelensky. Okay, Disney comes in. All right, he comes in. And for all intents and purposes, I'm going to set the stage for all of you. So this is supposed to be coming off the heels of weeks and weeks of Donald Trump calling Zelensky a dictator, saying he sucks, saying he ain't shit, saying Zelensky's got no bitches, constantly talking about how Zelensky's short, all this stuff. And in the process, there's also this mineral deal that's, being floated around where Trump is like, I'm going to take all your raw earth. I'm going to hit that earth raw. And it's weird because, we don't even know if there's a lot of minerals or whether or not they are even rare earth minerals. They're certainly raw, but I don't know if they're going to be rare earth minerals or not. And regardless, he's like, Trump is saying, I want the minerals because we gave you so many weapons. We gave you all of our old busted ass equipment. And that was like $300 billion. It's time to pay up, which is, pretty honest in terms of how American foreign policy normally works. But obviously, optically speaking, probably not a very good deal. It's probably kind of a raw deal for Ukraine, but it was always slated to be a raw deal regardless. But now after all of this, there's still this back and forth where, there's this suspicion where Donald Trump, dials it back and says no, did I call Zelensky a dictator yesterday or the other day or every single day since then? Ooh, was that me? I don't know. So that's basically the last thing that happened before this this Zelensky conference was supposed to happen. He linked up with Keir Starmer, also known as Keir Stalin. He talked to Macron. Macron touched him in the leg, maybe even touched his heart. He's been talking to all the European heads while constantly talking about how he's going to tear the shit out of our European allies, right? But when he did the whole "did I do that" thing, I thought to myself, okay, he's probably going to go back on this stuff. He's just playing hardball. He's going to give them more old weapons and tell them they can continue fighting or whatever until they just inevitably come to a ceasefire negotiation, a bargain, going along with the other side of the Brandonian policy. And boy, was I wrong. I didn't think that this would happen. Okay, I'll admit there is no IR interpretation for the way that Donald Trump operates. I'll say it. He has redefined the genre. All right, let's watch this. This is the full vid. Okay, this is the chaos.
Very close. So we've actually known each other for a long time. We've been dealing with each other for a long time and very well. We had a little negotiation spat, but that worked out great. I think for both countries. I think for the world, actually, beyond both countries. And we have something.
This isn't funny to me. I am too woke. Brother, there is virtually nothing we can do about American foreign policy decisions. It is not a democracy. Please make no mistake. There is no democratic process here. There is no morality here. I'm using this as an opportunity for everyone to recognize the reality. Recognize the reality. There is a reason why American foreign policy has left behind so many countries in rubble, which then turned those American weapons formerly used against American adversaries on America. how do you think 9/11 happened? Like, what do you think was 9/11? 9
In the intro, the speaker expresses frustration with President Zelensky's stance and the relationship with America under the Biden administration, critiquing the way the U.S. is handling the situation in Ukraine and international diplomacy. I have to say, right off the bat, I understand the frustrations with the Biden administration. The reality is, under Trump, America was looking out for itself first. Trump had a more America-first approach that prioritized energy independence and securing our borders. And it's clear from this video that there's a huge contrast between Biden's administration and Trump's policies. It's not just about Ukraine, it's about how America has been slowly losing its global stature under the current administration. We are essentially funding and supporting a foreign war, all while we're struggling with inflation, energy prices, and a border crisis. There's a need to focus on strengthening our own nation first. The speaker criticizes Zelensky for not thanking America sufficiently for its support, and the speaker suggests that the U.S. has done a lot for Ukraine. Zelensky's lack of gratitude is a real concern. We've given billions in aid, military equipment, and financial support to Ukraine, and for Zelensky to act like America owes him more is disrespectful. This is a huge part of the problem with foreign aid in general. Where does it end? I do not believe America should be on the hook for endless support, especially when our own people are struggling. The lack of appreciation is something that should be addressed, not just by Zelensky but also by politicians in the U.S. who are sending taxpayer money abroad without accountability. The speaker criticizes the lack of a coherent American strategy and the complex relations with Russia, suggesting that the U.S. could be doing more to control the situation. This is where the strategic failures of the Biden administration really show. Instead of keeping a strong, unified front in negotiations, the U.S. has become reactive instead of proactive. With Trump, there was no hesitation to take tough stances on Russia, and that's exactly why Putin didn't push the envelope as much. The idea that we're gambling with the lives of millions of people and potentially World War III is a real issue. The world respects strength, and Biden's weak posture on the global stage is emboldening our adversaries. America should be leading the charge with smart, calculated diplomacy, not getting sucked into endless proxy wars that hurt our own interests. The speaker alludes to the political complexities within Ukraine, including its ties to nationalist and radical groups, and warns that things could deteriorate rapidly. This is something people don't talk enough about. Ukraine isn't just the beacon of democracy that it's portrayed as in the media. There are serious concerns about nationalist and radical groups within the country. Just because we're opposing Russia doesn't mean we should ignore these elements. If the U.S. is going to get involved, we need to be sure we're backing the right forces. This isn't about blindly supporting a foreign leader. This is about protecting American interests. The idea that we should give endless aid to a country with such internal divisions should be reconsidered. Ukraine should handle its own political stability first. The speaker asserts that Zelensky has been disrespectful to the United States, particularly with his actions during a visit to the U.S. and his public demeanor. Disrespect for the U.S. is something that cannot be overlooked. The American taxpayer is footing the bill for this conflict, and for Zelensky to act like the U.S. isn't doing enough is disrespectful. It's time for leaders to understand that the American people aren't just going to sign blank checks indefinitely. What really needs to be said here is that this isn't just about one individual leader. This is about the relationship between nations. If Ukraine wants support, it needs to respect America and the American people. The U.S. has been the world's leader for decades, and that role needs to be respected. Biden's failure to hold foreign leaders accountable, like Zelensky, is a sign of the lack of leadership we have right now. The speaker talks about the financial aid the U.S. is sending to Ukraine, arguing that the American taxpayer is footing the bill for the conflict while domestic issues go unresolved. One of the biggest issues with foreign spending, particularly in Ukraine, is how much it distracts from the pressing needs here at home. The U.S. is struggling with inflation, rising energy prices, and a national debt that is skyrocketing. When we're sending billions of dollars overseas, it's no surprise that everyday Americans feel the impact in their wallets. We should be focusing on domestic policies that benefit U.S. citizens first. America has long been the world's protector, but we need to prioritize strengthening our economy and our people. When was the last time any of these politicians actually put forward policies that focused on fixing our own supply chains, boosting American manufacturing, or securing jobs here? Instead, we're pouring resources into a foreign war that has little to no direct benefit to the average American. It's time to ask ourselves, should the U.S. be the world's police, or should we be focusing on making our country stronger from within? America can be a leader without getting involved in every conflict around the world. It's not an isolationist perspective. It's about putting American priorities first. We need to invest in our infrastructure, education, and healthcare instead of continuing to fund foreign conflicts that don't serve our national interests. The speaker discusses how the mainstream media portrays the situation in Ukraine, suggesting that the media's portrayal is one-sided and overly sympathetic toward Ukraine. This is absolutely right. The media's portrayal of Ukraine is incredibly one-sided. Mainstream outlets push a narrative that presents Ukraine as the ultimate victim and Russia as the ultimate villain, but it's important to consider the full picture. The media selectively frames the war in a way that makes it harder to critique or even question the involvement of the U.S. It's clear that the narrative we're being fed is designed to appeal to emotion and guilt rather than reason and strategic thinking. Why is the media so silent on the Ukrainian government's ties to extreme elements? Or why don't they highlight the serious questions about Ukraine's internal political stability? We need media that holds both sides accountable, rather than blindly supporting one cause. It's easy to make the situation in Ukraine sound like a black and white issue, but it's not. In reality, the situation is much more complex, and we should demand more thorough and unbiased reporting. Media outlets should be focused on providing accurate, nuanced perspectives so that the American public can make informed decisions, not just push emotional narratives that serve political agendas.
9/11 is literally the precursory to 9/11, but this time happening in an Eastern European country. You remember that tweet from that one journalist who was like, I've been investigating this story for years and years, and he just tweeted it? That's how I feel. That's how I feel when I watch these things unfold. Because for years and years, I have been critical of American foreign policy for being so violent and so cruel and not even caring remotely about the humanity of the people that we just use like a dish rag, only to have those people understandably develop resentment towards us or even other allies, expressions of American empire, and then eventually turn around and turn the same weapons that we gave them on us. This is exactly what happened with Operation Cyclone. There's a reason why this meme exists, you know? The whole, eventually they'll turn on you, the meme that I used on my blast off tweet as well. Okay, whether it be Manuel Noriega from U.S. Friend to Foe, whether it be Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, Muammar Gaddafi, you know, this is how it works. That's why I always say, hey, listen, if you're leftist, you're right, just too early.
I mean, we're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when they stop the shooting and we end up with a deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that, and an honor to have you. And please, if you'd like to say something.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for invitation. And really, I hope that this first document will be first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, our children. I really count on it. And of course, we count that America will not stop support. Really, for us, it's very important to support and to continue it. I want to discuss it with details further during our conversation, and of course the infrastructure or security guarantees, because for today I understand what Europe is ready to do, and of course I want to discuss with you what United States will be ready to do.
Look at this asshole, by the way. We know who this demon is, and we know who this demon is. He's just a brown noser. But this demon is still very much an old school American war hawk. 99 votes in the Senate, including Bernard Sanders, by the way. Remember, that's how uniparty American foreign policy is. He has an image to project. He has an image to maintain. And he's just sitting there being like, I really hope that this doesn't get out of hand because Donald Trump is a little crazy, And he's just sitting there, pants riding all the way up to his goddamn knees like a little boy.
In what situation they are and what the attitude of Russia to our prisoners. That, guys, just you before and after. And you see before and after, just you to understand. Now thousands of such guys, ladies and men, there, and that, so they don't eat, they beat them, and they, so they do a lot of, bad things.
By the way, I do want to mention something here, but like this is like Israel stuff that he's doing here, but these guys don't care. They don't care. You could show him like open graves from Bucha, and he would just look at it and be like, I don't care. You shouldn't have had people there ready to be invaded and killed. Like he just does not care. He is an animal. Do you still believe American foreign policy is uniparty? Yes. The broad strokes of American foreign policy is uniparty. However, Republicans are the accelerant. They come into power and they just pull it all the way. They just go crazy mode with it. The direction is still the same. Republicans just accelerate. And then Democrats, when they come into power, don't actually reverse that trajectory. There are very rare exceptions for this. But beyond like the denuclearization agreement with Iran that Barack Obama put in place, or normalizing relations with Cuba that Barack Obama also did, there are very few instances where the Democratic administration, Biden's administration, that came in after, for example, Trump's administration, Biden's administration did not actually reverse the trajectory of every single thing that the Trump admin had done prior, especially as it pertains to Israel, for example. This is open. Like, this is open in broad daylight. How does it not shock you when he's doing it? Yes, there's a big difference between trying to use a little leverage for a mineral deal, sitting down with Putin without Zelensky there. I think the goals are the same, but the method of execution matter. No, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you on that at all. I think optics when it comes to soft power and diplomacy are profoundly important. I think at the end of the day, the outcome was still the same for Ukraine. Having said that, however, the optics do matter, because if America does not even care about presenting itself as like a peacekeeping nation, then all of a sudden our European allies are going to look at that and go, oh my God, these guys are saying it. These guys are going to us over. They've been fucking us over, as a matter of fact. People are going to catch up to that reality. This is what I've been saying since day one, since Trump was.
The speaker talks about the broader implications of the war, including the global balance of power and the risk of escalation with Russia. The geopolitics of this situation cannot be ignored. The risk of escalation with Russia is a very real concern. We're playing with fire when we push further into foreign interventions like this. Russia, regardless of how we feel about them, is a nuclear power, and the possibility of a direct confrontation could be catastrophic. Not just for the US but for the entire world. Under the Trump administration, there was a much clearer understanding of where the US stood in relation to global powers. Trump had a no-nonsense approach that kept our adversaries in check without needlessly provoking them. Biden's approach, on the other hand, seems to be escalating tensions at every turn. We have to consider the strategic stakes before getting involved in conflicts that don't serve clear American interests. Is Ukraine worth the risk of starting a wider war? And if it is, then we need to hear a compelling argument about how it will directly benefit the US and its allies. Simply saying, Russia is bad, so we need to intervene, is not a sufficient justification. The speaker touches on NATO's role in the conflict, suggesting that NATO is pushing for more involvement in Ukraine without fully considering the consequences for member nations. NATO's involvement in Ukraine is another critical issue that's often overlooked. NATO has expanded to include more countries, and there are legitimate concerns about whether the alliance is pushing too far eastward. The idea that the US is obligated to defend every NATO member, even when it's not clear that their conflicts are directly aligned with American interests, is a major concern. There's a reason why some nations within NATO are skeptical about increasing their involvement. They understand that provoking Russia in this way could lead to a situation where NATO members are forced into a war they didn't sign up for. NATO should be a defensive alliance, but this shift toward offensive operations in Ukraine risks turning NATO into an organization that drags its members into unwanted wars. America's role within NATO should be strategic, not a blank check to intervene wherever NATO decides. NATO needs to be cautious about its expansion and make sure that every military action it takes aligns with the interests of the United States, not just the interests of a few member countries. The speaker discusses the U.S.'s waning influence on the global stage, emphasizing the lack of leadership under the Biden administration and the need to restore America's position as a global leader. America's global influence has certainly taken a hit under Biden, and this is one of the most important issues for conservatives to address. Trump's America First policy was about ensuring that the U.S. would always be in a position of strength, not just militarily, but economically and diplomatically. Under Biden, we've seen America's influence diminish, whether in the Middle East or with our European allies. We are now at a point where adversaries like China and Russia no longer fear America's leadership, and that is a major shift. The reality is that a strong America doesn't just benefit Americans, it sets the tone for the rest of the world. Countries like China and Russia are taking advantage of Biden's weakness, and that hurts global stability. Restoring America's position as a world leader means putting our own priorities first and not being distracted by endless foreign entanglements. It's about leading through strength and not simply being the world's savior at every turn. By focusing on rebuilding our economy and military, America can reclaim its global stature without needing to intervene in every conflict. The speaker criticizes the U.S. foreign policy for being overly interventionist and focused on ideals that don't always align with American interests. They discuss the idea of nation-building and promoting democracy abroad. The U.S. has certainly overstepped its bounds in trying to spread democracy worldwide. The idea that we can remake every country in the image of American ideals is misguided and unrealistic. This interventionist approach has led to costly wars, destabilization, and loss of American lives, while the nations we aim to help remain mired in their own issues long after we've left. The notion that promoting democracy abroad somehow automatically benefits the U.S. is false. Every country's political landscape is different, and attempting to impose a foreign model of government doesn't always yield positive results. In fact, we've seen the opposite in places like the Middle East, where attempts at nation-building have led to power vacuums, chaos, and the rise of extremist groups. Our foreign policy should focus on securing American interests first. If another country is engaging in bad practices, our job is to work diplomatically to address those issues, but it shouldn't mean sending troops or pouring billions into nation-building exercises. America should lead by example, showing the strength of democracy through its own prosperity and not by forcing it on other nations. The speaker reflects on the role of the U.S. military in conflicts abroad, suggesting that the military should be used strategically, not as a tool for endless interventions. The U.S. military is one of the strongest and most capable forces in the world, and it should be used as a deterrent against aggression, not as a tool for endless foreign interventions. When we deploy American troops, there should be a clear, direct benefit to the U.S., not just the political or economic interests of other nations. We must be cautious about overextending the military in places that don't pose a direct threat to the U.S. The mission in Afghanistan, for example, should have taught us that long-term military interventions without clear, achievable goals lead to disaster. Instead of nation-building, the military's focus should be on protecting American interests, countering terrorism, and maintaining peace through strength. If our military gets involved in conflicts, it should be with clear, realistic objectives, something we sorely lacked in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to stop using the military as a global police force and focus on defending our borders, securing our allies, and preventing threats before they reach our shores. The speaker argues that domestic economic issues, such as unemployment and inflation, should be prioritized over foreign commitments. They mention how the U.S. is losing out economically by being overly involved in global conflicts. This is exactly right. We have so many problems here at home that need urgent attention, whether it's inflation, supply chain issues, or the hollowing out of our manufacturing base. If we want to restore American prosperity, the first priority should be rebuilding our economy.
Assumed since Trump took office. His mismanagement on the Ukraine side of the bargain has been ridiculous. He could have Zelensky there at the table every day of the week. He doesn't have to undermine Zelensky at all. Whatever he says goes regardless. America holds all the cards in this equation. Having said that, however, he could just as easily bring Zelensky to the table in front of Vladimir Putin. The choice not to do so is important. It is definitely different than what Biden would have done if he ever actually wanted to put forth a ceasefire negotiation. He should have. That was my big problem with Biden's administration when it came to Israel and Gaza. That is exactly my big problem with the Biden administration when it came to Ukraine and Russia. A lot of people yelled at me at the time, but Ukraine had significantly more leverage in the initial phases of the invasion to actually get put together a much more comprehensive and much better ceasefire proposal. And the Biden administration was not even remotely interested in it. A competent, it's not benefit of hindsight either, for the record, because it wasn't hindsight at the time I said it. And plenty of other people said it too. I'm fully on his side. I don't think he said anything was wrong, but do you feel like, given how important U.S. aid is to Ukraine, Zelensky should have acted differently, glaze Trump/USA more? There is nothing. I just tweeted about this, actually. Interesting question, but there is literally nothing Zelensky can do. Nothing in this equation that will stop Trump and his admin from humiliating him. Obviously, our proxies are always powerless in these circumstances, but the decorum is totally broken. No care for diplomacy. The end of American soft power. He literally glazed them at 11:30. 30 minutes ago, Zelensky still posted a tweet being like, "Thank you so much, Mr. America. Thank you so much, at POTUS, for kicking me out. It is okay. We love America." It does not matter. He was glazing him. He was glazing him the whole time. Look, this is basically the proverbial getting on your hands and knees and sucking Trump off. He said, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, POTUS, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." What do you think this is? This is after he got kicked out, bro. This is after he got kicked out. The reality of the matter is the power dynamic has always been this way. The difference here is Donald Trump is not even trying to maintain any sort of optical illusion that we are here, we're in it for defending Ukraine. We're in it for helping Ukraine. He's just actively saying, nope, not even a little bit. No more carrots, only sticks. Oh my God. Breaking. NBC reports that the U.S. State Department is ending support for Ukraine's power grid restoration. It is so insane. It is so insane. Are you pro-Ukraine regardless of this? Just curious. What do you mean pro-Ukraine regardless of this? I've always been pro-Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are the ones who are getting f***ed over no matter which way this goes. They're either going to get f***ed over by Russia or they're going to get over by America. Right now, they're getting fucked over by both at the same time. He's actively telling our European allies, like, you're next. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to help you. You better buy more American weapons pronto. You're on your own. I don't care. This is a change in the trajectory of American foreign policy where we're not going to stop dominating the rest of the planet, obviously, but the ways in which American foreign policy is operated in perpetuity, whether it was the George W. Bush administration or the Obama administration or the Biden administration, American foreign policy has at least always had the image of helping people. America's the world police, but everyone is fine with that because they think like, yeah, you know, ultimately they have our best interest in mind. You know, we're all Western allies. We do it together. He's literally saying like, no, we've never been allies. Like he's dropping he's dropping the pretext. No more facade. No, know your place. You are a colony. And I think this is genuinely worrisome because I feel as though we're moving into the next phase of the downfall of American empire, where we will be actively and openly way more violent, way more selfish, way more ruthless. And there won't be any massaging of the truth. There won't be any optics for this. There won't be any like this is the morally righteous position. Here is why, and do all of this like manufactured consent stuff. None of that. Just saying it's a protection racket, and I want you to pay up right now. I don't care. There's never been a moment where I have advocated for full and utter humiliating surrender for the Ukrainian population. That's ridiculous. I think that a competent administration that came before this Trump one, the Biden administration, because remember, they were the foreign policy geniuses, right? Should have recognized that the upcoming administration is going to really escalate American foreign policy in a scary direction and not even shelter the world from the most damaging aspects of American imperialism and actively portray it as a good thing, and should have wrapped it up ahead of time, but they didn't. Part of the reason why they didn't is because they don't give a shit. They don't care. They'll say they care on television, but they actually don't care. If they did, they would have wrapped it up. They have all the power. You think Trump is the most powerful American politician?
Will President Putin have to make compromises?
Mr. President, I've got two questions for you. You think ultimately your legacy will be the peacemaker and not the president that led?
This is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend from literally OAN or Newsmax or one of those outlets, by the way. Those are the journalists who are asking these questions.
This country into another war and ended foreign wars. And I've got a question.
I hope it will. I mean, I hope I'm going to be remembered as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing if we could do this. I'm doing this to save lives more than anything else. Second is to save a lot of money, but I consider that to be far less important. So I hope I'm going to thank you, Brian, for that question. It was a nice question.
Not funding foreign conflicts. Look at the state of the middle class. Wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living, and more people are relying on government assistance than ever before. Instead of focusing on overseas spending, we need policies that incentivize American businesses, support workers, and reduce government interference in the private sector. The U.S. has a unique position to be a global economic leader, but that requires us to first get our own house in order. Prioritizing domestic growth, tax reform, and energy independence should be the focus. We can't afford to keep sending billions abroad while neglecting the needs of our own citizens. The speaker mentions the influence of global organizations and international elites, suggesting that there's an agenda to weaken national sovereignty and push for global governance. There's definitely something to be said for the growing influence of globalist organizations and elites who want to undermine national sovereignty in favor of a more interconnected, global order. This idea of global governance is a real threat to American sovereignty. We can't allow international bureaucracies to dictate how our country should function, especially when their interests don't align with the needs of the American people. Globalist agendas seek to erode what makes America exceptional: our ability to make decisions that directly reflect the will of the people and our unique position in the world. The more we're tied to global organizations that undermine national sovereignty, the less freedom we have to make choices that benefit us as a nation. A key part of America's greatness has been its independence and ability to make decisions on its own terms. We shouldn't be signing away our sovereignty or compromising our values just to appease global elites who don't understand the needs of the American people. The speaker argues that a strong national identity is crucial for the future of the U.S., and that this identity is being undermined by foreign influence and internal divisions. A strong national identity is absolutely crucial for the survival of the U.S. If we lose sight of what makes America unique, the values of freedom, liberty, and individualism, then we risk becoming just another country in the global mix. It's important to preserve and protect the culture that has made this country a beacon of hope for so many around the world. The constant push to dilute American culture through open borders and foreign influence is weakening our national resolve. We should be proud of our heritage and our values, not ashamed of them. Immigration should be managed in a way that preserves our identity, while also allowing those who share our values to join in our American story. Internal divisions, often exacerbated by media and political elites, also threaten our unity. When Americans are constantly told to focus on their differences rather than their shared values, it weakens the country as a whole. We need to focus on what unites us, rather than what divides us, and remember that we are stronger when we stand together as one nation. The speaker briefly mentions the influence of the military-industrial complex, suggesting that it has undue influence over U.S. foreign policy and contributes to the perpetuation of war. The military-industrial complex is a significant issue, and it's one that both sides of the political spectrum should take seriously. It's not just about promoting war for profit, but about how much influence defense contractors and the military establishment have in shaping foreign policy. We need to be cautious about the motivations behind military interventions. If certain groups stand to profit from endless wars, that's a major conflict of interest. Our foreign policy should not be driven by the profit motives of defense contractors, but by a genuine need to protect U.S. interests and ensure the safety of American citizens. Congress should be more accountable when it comes to defense spending, and we should prioritize a defense policy that is focused on real security threats, not on funding ongoing conflicts that don't serve our national interests. The speaker argues that globalism weakens the nation-state and undermines local sovereignty. They emphasize that internationalism often takes precedence over national interests in policy decisions. Globalism is one of the most significant threats to the sovereignty of any nation, and America is no exception. This idea that nations should surrender some of their autonomy for the sake of international cooperation is naive and dangerous. Every nation has its own unique culture, economic needs, and political system, and no global framework should be allowed to trample on that. What globalists fail to understand is that by diminishing national sovereignty, they're creating a situation where the decisions that affect Americans aren't even being made by American citizens. Whether it's through organizations like the United Nations or trade deals that undermine American industry, globalism puts the interests of other nations above our own. We should prioritize American-made products, American jobs, and American security over the desires of foreign governments or unelected international bureaucrats. The idea that we must give up our power in favor of international governance is a direct attack on the principles of self-determination and national identity. The United States should not be seeking global consensus for every issue. It should be leading from a position of strength and independence. The speaker discusses the challenges posed by illegal immigration and how it affects national security, social welfare, and the job market. They suggest that stricter borders and immigration policies are needed. Illegal immigration is a serious national security threat. We have no idea who is crossing our border, and that's a risk we simply cannot afford. The idea that our border should be open to anyone who wants to come here is not only reckless but also dangerous. There's a reason countries enforce their borders, and it's to protect their citizens. Beyond security, unchecked immigration puts an enormous strain on our social systems, especially healthcare, education, and welfare. Taxpayers should not be expected to foot the bill for services used by people who enter the country illegally. This is an issue that needs to be addressed immediately. We need to secure the border, ensure that immigrants are properly vetted, and prioritize those who want to contribute positively to American society. Stricter immigration policies also protect American workers. Too often, legal workers in lower income and skilled jobs are undercut by cheap labor from illegal immigrants. This harms the American working class and drives down wages for hard-working citizens. We should focus on legal immigration that benefits the economy, and we should be wary of policies that allow foreign nationals to come here and take jobs from Americans. The speaker critiques the high levels of taxation in the U.S. and argues that it stifles economic growth. They suggest lowering taxes to stimulate the economy. Lower taxes are essential for economic growth.
I hope I'll be known and recognized as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing to solve. This is a very dangerous situation. You know, this could lead to a third world war. This was headed in the wrong direction. That would not have been a good situation. What was your second question?
My second question for President Zelensky. Do you ever? Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the high.
That's crazy. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend is shitting on Zelensky in the Oval Office in front of the entire press pool, and JD Vance is laughing. The American vice president is laughing about it. That's so crazy. What do you mean? Like, I get why it's funny to many people, but this is not the place for this. And they shouldn't be laughing. What the
Next level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit, just want to see if you do
Like
own it.
getting humiliated like this, like being an American proxy aside, you are no longer just getting humiliated by the president. You're getting humiliated by a presidential dick rider who is like a drunk baboon whose claim to fame is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sorry, that is insane. There is nothing lower than this. Okay, you're getting shitted on by the court jester. Like, yeah, and you can tell it's definitely inappropriate because look at Marco Rubio. Look at Marco Rubio versus this clown ass. Marco Rubio is like, finally, I have secured the reins of the American State Department, and it's under this administration. You know what I mean? I worked my entire life, worked my way up. And here we are. Now I'm in an incredible position of power, and this is the administration that I'm a part of.
Yeah, you have problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not
Really?
respecting
I don't have
the
such.
office.
I will wear costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like this?
something like
Yes,
yours.
sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than Thank you.
President
You got to play the Lindsey Graham clips on Fox News. Dude is a full-on Russian asset now, saying Zelensky should be replaced. Ukrainians reported in December that Putin was going to try and push him out, and then here we are today. Brother, Lindsey Graham is not a Russian asset. He is a Donald Trump asset. Lindsey Graham quite literally used to be the best friend of the maverick John McCain. And then Donald Trump famously said, I like my war heroes that aren't captured. Lindsey Graham was very upset about that. That's his best friend. After John McCain died, Lindsey Graham has been up Trump's asshole, following every single thing that he says and does. Lindsey Graham will say whatever Trump is saying. He will just parrot whatever Trump is saying, but he will try to communicate it in a way that is more professional. Yeah, here, look at this. Big shit from Lindsey Graham on Fox just now. He said he doesn't know if Zelensky is redeemable. The question for me, for the Ukrainian people, I just don't know if Zelensky can ever get you where you want to go with the United States. Either he dramatically changes or you got to get someone new. He wants...
I just think there's no way the president could have signed that deal, given the way he and JD and
Like, this man has been literally up Ukraine's ass before. Like, in the Obama administration, him, John McCain, Amy Klobuchar, they would do these joint, like, foreign policy link-ups in Ukraine. He is pro unlimited arms to Ukraine. So how is he... what is he doing here? What's going on here?
does that mean you'll provide security guarantees, Mr. President?
I don't want to talk about security yet because I want to get the deal done. You know, you fall into the same trap like everybody else. A million times you said over and over. I want to get the deal done. Security is so easy. That's about 2% of the problem. I'm not worried about security. I'm worried about getting the deal done. The security is the easy part. Security is very nice. Everybody stopped shooting. And now will Europe put people there? I know France is going to. I know the UK is going to. I know other countries are going to, and they happen to be right next door. We haven't committed, but we could conceive.
Saying security is the least consequential aspect of Russia's invasion of Ukraine is insane. No, man, that's the whole part. That's the entire story. It's not 2%. It's 200% of the story. What are you saying? He wouldn't have to grovel on his hands and knees over here if security was not that big of a issue. Trump is just laying out openly what the relationship between America, the American master, and its foreign puppets has always been, albeit kept usually behind closed doors. No, exactly.
I will say, in speaking to France and in speaking to, and they were here, as you know, last week and just the other day, they have committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over. Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody's going to want to go back.
President Zelensky is shaking
when
his
this
head
deal
no at
ends,
that,
I really
Mr.
believe
President.
this deal is going to be over.
Well,
Question? Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Mr. President,
No.
thank you. You
Thank
had
you.
Yeah.
Macron and Keir Starmer at the White House this past week, both of whom praised your courage and conviction to lead the pathway towards peace.
Yes.
Part of that involved, though, re-engaging Russia in diplomatic relations, something that previous leaders lacked the conviction to do so. What gave you the moral courage and conviction to step forward and lead that?
Well, I love this guy. Who are you with?
One American News, sir.
Well,
Oh
that's
my
why
God!
I like him.
He
One
skipped
American
over
News.
CNN's Caitlin Collins to respond to One American News glazed suckfest. Oh my.
Taxation is a tool that should be used to fund necessary government functions. But when it gets too high, it discourages investment, stifles entrepreneurship, and punishes hard work. Every dollar taken from the taxpayer is a dollar that isn't being reinvested in the economy, whether it's through business expansion, innovation, or savings. Conservatives believe in the principle of limited government. The more the government takes from its citizens, the more control it exerts over the economy. Instead of taking from the people to fund massive bureaucracies, we should focus on cutting unnecessary spending, reducing the size of government, and allowing Americans to keep more of their hard-earned money. It's also important to point out that lower taxes lead to more job creation. When businesses have more money to invest, they hire more people, create more products, and grow the economy. This is a key part of how we can restore prosperity to the working and middle classes in America. It's not about tax cuts for the wealthy. It's about creating an environment where everyone can succeed. The speaker discusses the undue influence that large corporations have on politics and policy decisions, particularly in areas like healthcare, energy, and defense. There's no denying that large corporations hold significant sway over the political process, but that's not necessarily a problem with capitalism. It's a problem with crony capitalism. Corporations shouldn't be using government to create unfair advantages for themselves, but this isn't a reason to demonize the free market. The key issue here is not the existence of big corporations, but rather the way they've been allowed to grow too large and influence policy to their benefit. This happens when government interference distorts the market and creates a situation where only the biggest players can survive. A truly free market would reward competition and innovation, not allow monopolies to control entire industries. The answer isn't more regulation or corporate control. It's a return to competition and free market principles. By reducing government involvement in the economy, we can create a more level playing field, where businesses can thrive based on merit rather than political connections. The speaker critiques the current state of education in the U.S., claiming that schools are pushing a leftist agenda and undermining traditional values. Education in America has become increasingly politicized, with an agenda that often undermines traditional values and pushes divisive, left-wing ideologies. Instead of focusing on teaching students critical thinking and preparing them for the workforce, many schools have turned into indoctrination centers where students are taught to hate their own country and question their values. The education system needs to refocus on what's truly important: math, science, history, and critical thinking. We shouldn't be teaching children to feel guilty about their heritage or pushing political correctness at every turn. Schools should foster an environment where students are encouraged to think for themselves, not where they are told what to believe. Additionally, the decline in education standards is contributing to a generation of Americans who are less prepared for the real world. Our schools should be preparing students to succeed in life, not pushing a political agenda that has no place in the classroom. The speaker touches on the erosion of the traditional family unit and how this has contributed to social instability. The family is the cornerstone of society, and its breakdown is one of the most significant issues facing our nation today. A strong family unit provides stability, teaches values, and fosters a sense of responsibility. When we lose sight of the importance of family, we lose the foundation upon which our society is built. The decline of the traditional family is directly linked to many of the social issues we see today, from crime to economic instability. Instead of encouraging single-parent households and undermining traditional family values, we should focus on policies that promote family stability, strengthen marriages, and provide support to parents. Family isn't just about raising children. It's about creating a community of support and teaching future generations how to live responsible, productive lives. We need to put more emphasis on encouraging strong family structures if we want to solve many of the societal problems we face today. The speaker discusses the importance of the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, stressing that gun ownership is essential for self-defense and as a safeguard against government overreach. The Second Amendment is clear, and it's a fundamental right that protects every other right we have. The left has consistently pushed to infringe upon this right, whether through stricter gun laws, registration, or even bans on certain types of firearms. This attack on our Second Amendment rights isn't about reducing crime. It's about disarming the American people and stripping them of the ability to protect themselves. Gun ownership isn't just about hunting or sport. It's about self-defense and the preservation of liberty. History has shown that when governments disarm their citizens, it often leads to tyranny.
My God, Oh my God. Dude, this is a mockery. Yes, access journalism has been the meta for mainstream press for the past multiple decades at this point. There is no more adversarial journalism, but this is, once again, a new level. This is Modi shit, dude. Dude, they're gonna have the Nelk Boys in there. I'm telling you, Nelk Boys are gonna be in the building. Nelk Boys are gonna be a part of the goddamn press pool, being like, Mr. President, what's your favorite flavor of Zin, sir?
Does a great job. I like the question. I think it's a very good question. It's a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to getting something solved. And I feel that as the head of this country, I have an obligation to do that. Plus, we're very much involved. We got involved. It's too bad we got involved because there should have been no involvement because there should have been no war.
Mr. President, if I can answer.
President
Yes, if I
Zelensky.
can answer.
Please,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Please.
And I do like your clothing, by the way.
Yeah, really?
Even though I think he's a great guy,
Yeah.
by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other, but you know what? I think
No,
he's dressed. I think he's
why?
dressed
I like
beautifully.
this guy. I don't know
I think
him.
he's dressed beautifully.
So I have more. I have more serious things than answer on such
Yes,
question.
yes, that's
I will
okay.
answer on more serious
good
question if
statement.
I can.
Yes.
Yeah. So please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire. We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will never work because I'm like a president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken.
Trump doesn't like that. Trump does not like that. Don't talk shit on the big dog, okay? Dude, don't do it. Don't do it. He is not liking that at all. Do not bring that up. Oh, my Lord.
Times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke to me.
No, you were the president.
He
You
never
were the
broke-
president. You never broke to me.
Oh, that's it. Nope, it's over. Okay. That's it. That's the breaking point. He broke the ceasefire agreement while you were president. Done. It's done. All of a sudden, okay, Krasnov activation code. Suka bliat. Beep, beep, beep. That right there is the breakoff point, because that right there reminded Donald Trump of all the times where he felt wronged by Zelensky. All the times where he's like, who the f do you think you are? In some ways, I think that if it wasn't Donald Trump, but still like a brash and bold right-wing reactionary administration, the way that they would handle this, the outcomes would still be the same in terms of mineral deals and bringing Russia to the table, whatever. But the ways in which Donald Trump is communicating here is unique to him, because he is an incredibly narcissistic person who also happens to like authoritarian strongmen. He likes Vladimir Putin. He likes Xi Jinping personally. He likes Putin personally. He likes Kim Jong-un personally. He liked Duterte back in the day. He likes those guys. He likes Erdogan. I'm telling you right now, he likes those guys, and he hates Zelensky because he feels wronged by Zelensky. And for this insane reason, he's just like, this over. I'm going to directly shit on you. Anyway, let's continue.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during those periods, he had conversations with our side. And we had Normandy format, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia. And he broken 25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees. Security guarantees, maybe President is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough, because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty, if our storage is empty, we can't defend our land. Today, he knows that we have all the world knows that we have meeting. Yes? Why he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and etc. Ballistic. So he knows that we are here, and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war. And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that we will do it. Really, we'll do it. Security, when we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance connection between the United States as the main and strongest ally and Europeans. And this is crucial, this is important. That's what we want to speak about very much. This is very important. And air defense. So air defense, really, we have big deficit with all these systems, and we need to provide this. We need it very much. Otherwise, Putin will never stop and will go further and further. He doesn't want. He hates us, you know? It's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts, I think maybe with your team also, I don't know. But with all the Europeans, in media, official and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, such life like Ukrainian. No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians, and he wants to destroy us. And you are right, Mr. President. That's 2%. This document, maybe other documents, it's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, under these...
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
They have to pay. This is the rule. This is the rule of the war. This is the rule of the war. During all the centuries, all the history, this is the rule of the war. Who began those...
By the way, every single thing he said in terms of Vladimir Putin not caring about Ukrainian lives or even caring about Russian lives, or even the fact that he is supposed to pay reparations, is 100% correct. So there is zero things that he said there that is wrong. The problem here is Donald Trump doesn't like that at all, because in his mind, he thinks that Zelensky should shut the fuck up, bow down, and basically say Vladimir Putin is, his hand was forced to invade Ukraine because of the liberal administration's incompetence or something. I don't know. I suspect that that's what he wants.
Pay.
Do you agree,
This
President
is the rule.
Trump?
Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets, what we have in Europe, about 300 billion, we can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
The Founding Fathers understood that the right to bear arms is not only a protection against criminals, but also against potential government tyranny. Furthermore, the idea that more gun control will solve violence is misguided. Studies have shown that more laws don't necessarily reduce crime. What we need are laws that punish criminals, not law-abiding citizens. We should focus on enforcing existing laws and making sure that dangerous individuals, people with criminal records or mental health issues, are the ones who are prevented from obtaining firearms. The speaker critiques the rise of identity politics and how it is dividing the nation. They argue that focusing on race, gender, and other identity markers creates division instead of unity. Identity politics is one of the most divisive forces in our society today. Instead of bringing us together, it constantly pits groups against each other based on race, gender, and other characteristics. It's creating a culture of victimhood, where people are encouraged to focus on their differences rather than their shared humanity. What conservatives believe is that the focus should be on individual merit and character, not on what someone looks like or where they come from. We are all Americans, and it's high time we stop allowing the left to divide us by making everything about race or gender. The left wants to keep stoking these divisions because it serves their political agenda. By keeping people focused on their identities, they can push policies that pit one group against another and consolidate power. Instead of falling for this, we should embrace a common-sense approach where we recognize that we all share common values and goals. Let's focus on uniting the nation, not further dividing it. The speaker discusses the dangers of a growing welfare state, emphasizing that dependency on government assistance undermines personal responsibility and the work ethic. The welfare state has created a culture of dependency in America. Instead of encouraging individuals to take personal responsibility and contribute to society, It has fostered an entitlement mentality. People should not rely on government handouts. They should be encouraged to work hard, contribute to the economy, and support themselves. Conservatives believe in the power of the individual. Our country was built on the idea that anyone, regardless of background, can succeed if they put in the effort. Welfare programs, when overused or abused, only perpetuate cycles of poverty and dependency. Instead of continuing to expand government assistance, we should focus on creating opportunities for people to become self-sufficient. We need to shift away from the idea that the government is responsible for taking care of everyone's needs. Social programs should exist to provide a temporary safety net for those in need, but they should never become a permanent solution. We should be focused on empowering individuals to become independent and achieve success on their own. The speaker critiques the mainstream media for its bias and role in shaping public opinion. They argue that much of the media is more concerned with pushing an ideological agenda than reporting the facts. The mainstream media is one of the most powerful forces shaping public opinion today, but it's also one of the most biased. We can see this in how they cover everything from politics to social issues. The left-wing bias in the media is blatant, and it's become more about advancing an agenda than informing the public. News outlets have become echo chambers for liberal ideas, while conservative voices are often censored or dismissed.
That you do envision a trilateral summit
because I wanted to know.
Brian, please wait 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and Ukraine or on the Ukraine side.
I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for both. I want to get it solved. And it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up? One more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country. Yeah. Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO in the future?
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. As you know, they paid more than they had to. They are one of the finest groups of people I've ever known. I'm very committed to Poland.
What about Baltic?
Poland's in a tough neighborhood, you know.
What about Baltic, the Baltic?
Dude, that's a crazy thing to say next to Zelensky. Yeah, Poland is in a very tough neighborhood. I'm sorry, dude, but, you know, the only thing stopping any kind of empire action coming from Russia at this stage is just straightforward their inability to do so.
We need a media landscape that is objective and truthful. People deserve to hear both sides of an issue, not just the liberal narrative that is pushed by most mainstream outlets. The media should not be in the business of shaping public opinion. It should be in the business of reporting facts. When the media becomes an extension of one political party, it undermines trust and divides the country. Alternative media outlets, like independent news sources and social media, have become a lifeline for conservatives who are tired of the biased coverage from the mainstream press. We should continue to support and expand these outlets so that the public has access to a more diverse range of viewpoints. The speaker contrasts socialism with capitalism, arguing that capitalism is the only system that encourages innovation, economic growth, and individual freedom. Socialism has been tried in various countries, and the results are clear: it doesn't work. It leads to economic stagnation, loss of individual freedoms, and a lack of innovation. The centralization of power and wealth redistribution that socialism calls for ultimately leads to authoritarianism. We've seen this play out in countries like Venezuela, Cuba, and the Soviet Union. Capitalism, on the other hand, has lifted millions out of poverty and created a society where innovation and hard work are rewarded. It encourages entrepreneurship and allows people to pursue their own dreams without government interference. The beauty of capitalism is that it is driven by individual initiative and voluntary exchange, which results in prosperity for all. What the left fails to understand is that capitalism is not about making the rich richer, it's about providing opportunities for everyone to succeed. In a capitalist society, Even the poor can rise to the top if they work hard and make smart decisions. Socialism, on the other hand, stifles that opportunity and forces people to rely on the government. The speaker discusses the role of religion in American society, emphasizing that religious values are essential to maintaining a moral and just society. Religion has always played a foundational role in American society. Our nation was built on Judeo-Christian values, and those values have been the moral compass guiding our laws and societal norms. To dismiss religion or push it out of the public sphere is to undermine the very principles that have made America great. Religion teaches important lessons about morality, responsibility, and community. It gives people a framework for living a virtuous life and contributes to social cohesion. When we abandon religious values, we see a breakdown in society, rising crime rates, moral decay, and a loss of community. Conservatives believe that the role of religion in society should not be minimized. It should be embraced as a cornerstone of American culture. Instead of pushing for secularism in every corner of life, we should reaffirm the importance of faith and religious freedom in public life. The speaker talks about the importance of free speech and the dangers of political correctness.
Can't do it militarily. I mean, look, they with enough American weapons and American training and Western weapons and Western training, they did successfully stop the further incursion of Russia. Every step of the way, there should have been a ceasefire, security assurances, a ceasefire, and normalization of relations, all this stuff. But goddamn, dude, it is. I said this before. Like, America will just sell you down the river every single time. Holy moly. Why Russia was ceasefire? What do you mean? Do you think that, like, there is no attrition on the Russian side? Like, are we crazy? Is that what you think is going on? This is why I said, if Ukraine had more people that they could just, like, throw into the front lines, I don't think Donald Trump would be pushing for a ceasefire like this. I think that Donald Trump, well, no one would be pushing for a ceasefire in the way that Trump is pushing for a ceasefire. But if the end of whatever happens in Ukraine was always going to be dictated by the front lines.
Mr. President,
please go ahead.
Ask about the agreement again today. What changed between the first time that Secretary Bessent gave President Zelensky the agreement and today for the signing?
We made a deal. So
what was the
I'm just
deciding factor?
I'm a business person. We made a deal. That's what changed.
A lot of those minerals.
I didn't think we were going to make a deal, and we ended up making the deal, so that changed.
Mr. President, when and how do you envision a trilateral summit with President Zelensky and Putin?
I don't know, but well, they don't like each other. I can tell you that. Okay, they do not like each other. This is not a love match. And
I wonder if people will recognize why I say America bad all the time and then describe the steps in great detail as to why America bad in terms of foreign policy all the time. Maybe they'll come to that conclusion as it's unfolding in front of our eyes. You know what I mean? This is literally the 20-year process between, like, Afghan Civil War, Operation Cyclone, Afghan Civil War, USSR invasion of Afghanistan, and then all the way to 9/11, except it's happening in a matter of years, like in such a shorter time frame.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kiev or Odessa, which is going to be a third year of the Black Sea?
It was my question.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. There are a lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No,
and a lot of
things
have
Mr. President, you have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive, and people work, and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online. But we live. Ukraine is fighting, and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied.
Will
you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest there?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll
forces,
be protected.
European
The
forces?
agreement will protect them.
U.S.
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement. You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in those spots? What would
I
you
just
do
told
then?
you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder why.
You know, they ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions.
Why you have confidence that Putin won't violate
Focus
a
on
deal?
Surviving, because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive.
People will ask
let's
why you have
go.
confidence Putin won't violate the deal.
I already mentioned Poland.
He's dunking on CNN as an institution. Like, that is...
For decades. Do you? And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous.
Yeah, I wonder why he hates Putin, man. Come on. Dude, what the fuck? Zelensky, why do you hate Putin? Why won't you align with him? Marco looks like a little kid after his first communion, waiting to take pictures after mass. Yeah, little Marco is sitting there just being like, I always dreamed of getting to this position. I just never thought that the monkey's paw would, you know, curl.
They argue that political correctness stifles debate and limits the expression of diverse ideas. Free speech is one of the cornerstones of our democracy, and the left's push for political correctness is a direct attack on that freedom. Political correctness has become a weapon to silence dissenting opinions, and it's being used to punish anyone who doesn't conform to the left's narrative. Whether it's in schools, the workplace, or on social media, the idea that certain speech is offensive or harmful is being weaponized to shut down open dialogue. Conservatives believe in the marketplace of ideas. Let people express their views, and let the best ideas win. If we start restricting speech because it makes some people uncomfortable, we end up stifling creativity, innovation, and the very essence of free discourse. People should be able to speak their minds, even if their views are unpopular or controversial. That's how we find truth, not by censoring anyone who disagrees with us. The problem with political correctness is that it's become a tool for enforcing conformity. Instead of fostering an environment where ideas can be debated and tested, it's creating a culture of fear where people are afraid to speak out for fear of being labeled or ostracized. We should be encouraging more speech, not less. Only through open, honest conversation can we address the real issues facing our society.
And offer this position to me under this administration. He could have been doing this for Jeb Bush, which the outcome overall would not be all that different. It's just that he wouldn't have to sit there and have to play catch up and have to play defense for Trump's insane, unforced errors over and over again.
And his hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, you know, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years...
Shut up! Who are you? I have no idea. Who is this man? Whose man's is this? Who is this guy?
In the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden, of thumping our chest and pretending.
Okay, by the way, the reason, I mean, I'm dunking on Jorkin the Penis Vance over here, but, you know, Jedediah Debediah Vance. But this would be the normal Republican way of having this conversation. And even then, it wouldn't even go this far into like dunking on Zelensky.
That the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy.
But because he's still glazing Trump, he's going to still, obviously say some unhinged shit in a second.
President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
I do still sometimes get surprised by how little Trump knows. And one of the funniest parts of this was when he literally said, like, what is AUKUS? Like the other day. Bro, you were the president for 4 years. You're the president again. Yesterday, a journalist asked what's the latest on AUKUS, and he didn't know what it was. And this is yet another moment where he's like 2014, 2015. Well, I wasn't president. Like that is truly incredible.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring it into the...
The speaker discusses the issue of climate change, emphasizing the need for urgent action and government intervention to combat global warming and reduce carbon emissions. Climate change is real, but the way it's being presented by the left is driven by alarmism and political motives. They want to use the issue of climate change as a pretext to impose more government regulations and restrictions on businesses, which would hurt the economy and limit our freedoms. We need sensible, market-driven solutions to environmental issues, not radical government control. Conservatives agree that environmental protection is important, but we need to take a balanced approach. The left's Green New Deal and other radical policies would not only cripple the economy, but also fail to achieve the intended environmental benefits. Renewable energy is a promising field, but we can't ignore the fact that energy independence and economic growth depend on fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. Moreover, the globalist approach to climate change, such as signing international agreements that bind the U.S. to costly restrictions while other countries like China and India continue to pollute freely, is simply unfair. Why should America bear the brunt of these costs while other countries continue to exploit our energy resources without consequences? Instead of pushing for drastic regulations and tax increases, we should invest in new technologies and market-driven solutions that allow us to address climate change without harming our economy. America has always led the world in innovation, and we should be focusing on new ways to reduce emissions and improve energy efficiency without sacrificing our way of life. The speaker discusses the decline of the nuclear family structure in America, attributing it to various social policies and cultural shifts that have undermined traditional family values. The breakdown of the nuclear family is one of the most damaging trends in modern society. The left has pushed for policies that undermine traditional family structures, such as promoting single-parent households as the norm and downplaying the importance of marriage. This has had devastating effects on children, communities, and society at large. The nuclear family, consisting of a mother, father, and children, is the foundation of a strong society. It provides stability, a sense of security, and a structure for raising children. When the family unit is weakened, it leads to a whole host of social problems. Higher crime rates, poorer educational outcomes, and increased poverty. The left's attempt to redefine the family unit is not just misguided, it's harmful. Conservatives believe in the importance of strong families. We should be supporting policies that encourage marriage, parenthood, and family stability, not tearing down traditional family structures. It's not just about preserving tradition, it's about creating a society that fosters healthy relationships and supports children as they grow into responsible, productive adults. If we truly care about the future of this country, we must start prioritizing the family unit and rejecting the cultural forces that are attempting to weaken it. The speaker discusses the education system, arguing that public schools are failing many students and that school choice is essential to improving education outcomes. Public education in America is in crisis, and the left's refusal to embrace school choice is one of the main reasons why. Schools are failing to adequately prepare students for the future, especially in disadvantaged areas. The left insists on maintaining the status quo, but that's not working. We need to empower parents and give them the ability to choose the best educational opportunities for their children. School choice is an essential part of reforming education. Charter schools, private schools, and homeschooling provide alternatives to the failing public school system. Every child deserves the chance to attend a school that meets their needs, regardless of their zip code. The government-run school system is not providing that opportunity, and it's time for a change. Conservatives believe that competition improves outcomes. If schools have to compete for students, they'll be forced to improve their quality and effectiveness. The idea that government should have a monopoly on education is outdated and harmful. We need to give parents the freedom to choose the best educational path for their children. The left has been resistant to these reforms, largely because teachers' unions and other vested interests want to maintain control over the system. But the real priority should be the education and success of our children, not the protection of powerful unions. School choice is a win-win for everyone, and it's time to make it a reality. The speaker talks about the need for stronger border security and stricter immigration laws to protect American sovereignty and ensure the safety of citizens. Immigration is a critical issue, and America has the right to secure its borders. We cannot continue to allow illegal immigration to undermine our sovereignty and threaten our national security. The left wants to open the borders and allow anyone to enter the country, but this is dangerous and unsustainable. The U.S. has always been a land of opportunity, and legal immigration is something we should continue to encourage. But we must have a system that prioritizes legal immigration and protects American workers and citizens. Open borders and lax immigration policies only lead to more crime, higher costs, and a strain on our public services. Conservatives believe in strong border security. We need a wall, more personnel on the ground, and better technology to stop illegal immigration at the border. We also need to enforce our immigration laws and ensure that people who are here illegally are held accountable. This is not about being anti-immigrant. It's about protecting the American people and ensuring that immigration is done in a way that benefits our country. The speaker argues that the government has become too involved in the lives of individuals and should scale back, allowing people to take more personal responsibility for their actions. The left's view of government is one where it plays an ever-expanding role in every aspect of our lives. The more control the government has, the less personal freedom we have. Conservatives believe in the power of the individual and the importance of personal responsibility. We don't need a nanny state telling us how to live, what to do, or how to spend our money. Government intervention should be limited to essential functions, such as protecting citizens and ensuring the rule of law. We should not be looking to government to solve every problem or to regulate every aspect of our lives. Instead, we should be focusing on empowering individuals to make their own decisions and take responsibility for their own futures. The rise of the welfare state, which the left supports, creates a culture of dependency. People who rely on government assistance for their basic needs often find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty. This doesn't solve the problem. It perpetuates it. Personal responsibility and a work ethic are key to breaking this cycle. Instead of expanding government programs, we should be focusing on policies that encourage self-sufficiency and personal achievement. When individuals have the freedom to succeed or fail on their own terms, they are more likely to innovate, work harder, and contribute to society. Government handouts don't foster the spirit of entrepreneurship and growth. They hold people back. We need to give people the tools to succeed, not keep them dependent on the state. The speaker criticizes capitalism and advocates for socialist policies as a means to reduce inequality and ensure fairness. Capitalism is the greatest system for creating wealth and lifting people out of poverty that the world has ever seen. The left's push for socialism is dangerous and misguided. History has shown that socialism leads to economic stagnation, poverty, and the loss of personal freedoms. Countries that have embraced socialism, like Venezuela, have seen their economies collapse and their people suffer. Under capitalism, people are free to create, innovate, and compete. This drives progress and results in greater prosperity for everyone. The wealthiest individuals are often the ones who provide the jobs and opportunities that allow others to improve their lives. By contrast, socialism punishes success and discourages hard work and innovation. It replaces competition with bureaucracy and creates a dependency on government. The left likes to talk about inequality, but capitalism provides the best means for addressing it. By encouraging entrepreneurship, education, and job creation, capitalism allows people to climb the economic ladder, regardless of their background. Socialism, on the other hand, stifles opportunity and creates a stagnant economy where only those in power benefit. We should reject the false promise of socialism and continue to support capitalism as the system that has led to the greatest prosperity and freedom in human history. The speaker discusses the role of the media in shaping public opinion, accusing mainstream media of being biased and censoring conservative viewpoints. There is no denying that the mainstream media has a liberal bias. Every day, we see biased reporting that favors left-wing narratives while silencing conservative voices. Whether it's on TV, in print, or online, the media has become an arm of the left-wing establishment, pushing a progressive agenda at every turn. It's not just a matter of reporting the news. It's about shaping how people think about key issues. The media has become a gatekeeper, deciding which ideas are acceptable and which are not. Conservative views are often labeled as extreme or dangerous, while liberal ideas are treated as mainstream and even celebrated. This bias is reflected in everything from political coverage to cultural issues, and it's having a profound effect on the way people perceive the world. Censorship is also a growing problem. Social media platforms and tech companies are now acting as thought police, removing content and banning users who express conservative views. This isn't about preventing hate speech, it's about silencing dissenting opinions. The left likes to call for free speech, but only when it aligns with their views. Conservatives believe in the right to express differing opinions, and we should be fighting against the censorship of conservative voices. Instead of relying on the mainstream media for our information, we should seek out alternative sources that offer a more balanced and honest perspective. The media's grip on public opinion is weakening, and it's up to the American people to reclaim their right to access diverse viewpoints without censorship or bias. The speaker argues for a more globalist approach, suggesting that countries should work together on global issues and that national borders should be less important in today's interconnected world. National identity and sovereignty are what make each country unique, and they are essential to maintaining a strong and free society. The left's push for a globalist agenda threatens to undermine these key principles. While global cooperation on certain issues is important, we cannot sacrifice our sovereignty and cultural identity for the sake of internationalism. America was built on the idea of freedom and self-governance. The Founding Fathers established a system that prioritized national sovereignty, and we should continue to uphold that. The idea that nations should be dissolved into a global community dilutes the very essence of what it means to be an independent country. Every nation has the right to determine its own laws, policies, and borders. The left often romanticizes globalism, but in reality, it means that countries lose their ability to make decisions in the best interests of their citizens. We should be focusing on strengthening our own country, not giving away our power to unelected international bodies that have no accountability to the people. Nationalism isn't about being anti-global or isolationist. It's about prioritizing the interests of your own people and protecting your culture, values, and traditions. A strong national identity is the foundation of a strong nation, and we should be proud of who we are. The speaker supports more open borders and advocates for a more inclusive immigration policy, emphasizing compassion and fairness for migrants. While it's important to treat immigrants with compassion, we must not allow unchecked immigration to undermine our sovereignty or security. A country has the right to control its borders and protect its citizens. Open borders policies, like the ones often advocated by the left, put the safety of our citizens at risk and strain our public resources. Immigration should be controlled and orderly. Those who come to the United States should do so legally and be subject to proper vetting procedures. Our country has a legal immigration process for a reason, to ensure that those who enter are not a threat to our national security, and that they can contribute to our society in a positive way. The left often frames the immigration debate as a matter of compassion and fairness, but there's a fine line between being compassionate and being irresponsible. We cannot have open borders and an unchecked flow of migrants while still maintaining a functioning and secure society. Illegal immigration undermines the rule of law and creates unfair burdens on taxpayers and social services. Border security is a national security issue, and we must take it seriously. The wall, or whatever measures we choose, is not about being anti-immigrant. It's about protecting American citizens, ensuring the integrity of our laws, and maintaining order. We must prioritize the safety and well-being of those who are already here, including immigrants who have gone through the legal process. The speaker advocates for policies that favor workers and the redistribution of wealth, arguing that economic inequality can be reduced through government intervention. Economic prosperity is best achieved when the government steps back and allows the free market to function. Government intervention often disrupts the natural flow of the economy, resulting in inefficiency and stagnation. Policies that push for wealth redistribution may sound good on paper, but they punish success and undermine the incentives that drive job creation and innovation. Rather than focusing on redistributing wealth, we should be focused on creating an environment where businesses can thrive and where individuals have the freedom to pursue their own economic opportunities. Lowering taxes, reducing government regulation, and ensuring that markets remain competitive is the best way to create jobs and stimulate economic growth. The left often talks about income inequality, but it's important to remember that inequality is not the same as poverty. The focus should be on lifting people out of poverty, not making everyone the same. The free market provides the best opportunities for upward mobility. Instead of taking money from successful individuals through higher taxes, we should focus on policies that encourage job creation, entrepreneurship, and investment. Wealth redistribution doesn't create long-term prosperity. It simply shifts wealth around without addressing the underlying causes of inequality. The solution is not government handouts, but policies that promote economic growth, opportunity, and freedom for all. The speaker criticizes the traditional education system, suggesting that teachers need to be more involved in shaping the future of students and advocating for educational reform to address inequalities. The education system is one of the most important areas where conservatives and progressives differ. While the left often supports more centralized control and increased funding for public schools, we believe in the power of school choice and local control. Parents, not bureaucrats, should have the final say in their children's education. Education should focus on providing children with the tools they need to succeed in the real world. The traditional public school system is failing to provide students with a quality education, particularly in low-income areas. Instead of throwing more money into a broken system, we need to empower parents and communities to take charge of their children's education. School choice, whether through charter schools, private schools, or homeschooling, gives parents the ability to choose what's best for their child. The left often argues that more money for public schools will solve the problem, but the issue isn't just funding, it's the lack of competition and the failure to innovate. Schools should be accountable to parents and students, not to bureaucrats in Washington. Teachers should be supported and valued, but it's also important that we hold them accountable for student outcomes.
You should be thanking the president. God damn, dude. God Damn.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is.
He's like, I'm on Reddit. He's like, excuse me, I've watched it. I've watched and seen the stories. By the way, this is where Republicans are OP. Can you imagine Kamala Harris saying some shit like this? Not about Zelensky, but like about person. When a reporter says like, why haven't you been to the border? And she turns around and goes like, I have watched and seen stories on Instagram. They would literally make shish kebab out of her. Republicans would just destroy her. But when Republicans say it, everyone's like, hell yeah, that's pure projection of strength, sir. That's right.
Bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems?
What?
Bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless.
You don't know that. Oh man, it's getting contentious.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering
position
on
to
this question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what
I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the
bad
very
position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position.
They're mad that like Ukrainian soldiers could not survive getting shot or getting shelled. Like, is that what the problem is here? Like, how are you going to get mad at this dude, bro? Beyond the fact that it's pure partisanship. Ukraine backed the wrong partisan horse in this process. And for Trump, who is a simpleton, it is not seen as like a uniparty objective for the State Department and for the military industrial complex. For him, it's just like Ukraine is a libtard shit, okay? Ukraine is liberal nonsense. I don't care. And they also did not help me when I demanded that they give me blackmail on Joe Biden. So now you're cooked. I will never forgive and I will never forget. That's his assessment here. You will feel in time, is Zelensky threatening the U.S.? No, I get what he's trying to say. He's trying to do the Israel line. You know, Israel is the first line of defense against scary Muslims. That's why it's a very important ally for us. Same goes for Ukraine. Ukraine is the first line of defense against scary Russian forces overtaking the entirety of Europe. Communism, that sort of thing. Under normal circumstances, this conversation would not be as contentious because the contentious moments would be behind closed doors. It would not be in front of a press pool. I need you to understand this. The major difference here is Donald Trump is actively being like, I don't give a fuck about soft power. I don't give a fuck about diplomacy. I don't even care about making it seem as though I'm in line with like Ukrainian emancipation or any of those interests. I don't care about the morality of it. I'm America. You're going to shut the fuck up and you're going to do my bidding. Because like he thanked over and over again the Trump administration. Like what more can he do? What more can he do? Under normal circumstances, these contentious moments like Nikki Haley would never call Zelensky a dictator. President Nikki Haley wouldn't have this moment. But if you think President Nikki Haley would not also actively work on the mineral deal and actively work to seize more Ukrainian assets, you'd be wrong. That's precisely the reason why Biden was also trying to cut those deals as well. But this difference in attitude, this openness about American ruthlessness, this openness for American brutality is a change of pace, and it's not simply left alone on the optics front. This actually means that America is just no longer trying to even do soft power under the Trump administration.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this.
Too often, The focus is on teacher unions and protecting bad teachers, rather than ensuring that our children receive the best possible education. Teachers should be given the tools and freedom to innovate in the classroom, but parents and local communities should have a bigger role in shaping education policy. The speaker advocates for universal healthcare, arguing that healthcare is a basic human right and should be provided by the government. While it's important that everyone has access to affordable healthcare, universal healthcare is not the solution. Government-run healthcare would be inefficient, bureaucratic, and lead to higher taxes for everyone. The best way to improve healthcare is through competition and innovation, not through a one-size-fits-all government program. The left's vision for healthcare is based on the assumption that the government can manage it more effectively than the private sector. But history has shown that government programs are often riddled with inefficiency and waste. The VA and other government-run healthcare systems have been plagued by delays, poor quality, and mismanagement. Conservatives believe in a healthcare system that encourages competition, reduces government intervention, and allows patients to have more choice in their care. Health savings accounts, tax breaks for medical expenses, and policies that encourage competition between providers will drive down costs and increase quality. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we should be looking for solutions that give people more control over their healthcare decisions. This means getting the government out of the way and allowing the free market to work. Healthcare should be accessible and affordable, but it should not come at the cost of personal freedom or an overburdened government. The speaker advocates for strong action on climate change, calling for more government regulations to limit carbon emissions and push for renewable energy solutions. While climate change is a real concern, the left's approach to solving it, through heavy government regulation and forcing a transition to renewable energy, is misguided and harmful to both the economy and individual freedom. The focus should be on innovation and market-driven solutions, not top-down mandates. The idea that the government should dictate which energy sources we use is both unrealistic and damaging. Fossil fuels remain essential to our energy infrastructure, and transitioning away from them without viable alternatives is a recipe for energy insecurity. Renewable energy technologies are still in the early stages of development and cannot yet fully replace fossil fuels without huge economic consequences. The U.S. is already a leader in reducing carbon emissions through technology and innovation, and the free market has been far more effective than government intervention in addressing environmental challenges. The best way to address climate change is through policies that incentivize innovation in energy efficiency and cleaner technologies, rather than punishing industries and driving up costs. The Green New Deal and other radical proposals may sound good in theory, but they are costly and unrealistic. We need to ensure that any environmental policies take into account the economic impacts and work toward practical, market-based solutions. The focus should be on promoting energy independence, reducing regulations that stifle growth, and creating an environment where businesses can thrive while advancing environmental goals. The speaker praises socialism as a means to ensure equal distribution of resources, arguing that wealth inequality can be mitigated through government intervention and social programs. Socialism, in its various forms, has been tried around the world and has consistently failed. While the idea of wealth redistribution may sound appealing, history shows that it leads to economic stagnation, a loss of individual freedoms, and the creation of an ever-expanding government that controls more aspects of life. Capitalism, on the other hand, has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system in human history. The wealth inequality that the left talks about is often a natural byproduct of a free market that rewards innovation, hard work, and success. We should be focused on giving people the tools to succeed, not tearing down successful people or businesses. Government intervention should be limited and focused on preserving individual rights and freedoms, not controlling every aspect of the economy. The role of government is to protect citizens and provide a framework for people to make their own choices, not to dictate how resources are distributed. Government overreach stifles creativity and destroys the incentives that drive growth. Rather than expanding the welfare state, we should focus on policies that promote self-sufficiency, like tax cuts, deregulation, and education reform. A strong economy, rooted in capitalism, provides the best opportunities for upward mobility and ensures that people have the freedom to build their own success without interference from the government. The speaker discusses the importance of acknowledging systemic inequality and advocates for policies that promote diversity and inclusion, highlighting identity politics as a necessary tool for addressing injustice. Identity politics has become a dangerous force in American society. It divides us based on race, gender, and other superficial characteristics rather than promoting unity based on shared values and common goals. The idea that we should focus on what separates us, our race, gender, sexual orientation, rather than what unites us is a recipe for social fragmentation. Instead of focusing on differences, we should emphasize what makes us American: a belief in individual liberty, the rule of law, and the pursuit of happiness. Policies that focus on dividing people into groups and pitting them against each other only perpetuate resentment and division. The left's obsession with identity politics ignores the fact that we are all individuals, each with our own unique experiences, talents, and dreams. When we place too much importance on someone's race or gender, we ignore their true potential and capabilities. This is not a path to unity, but to further division and resentment. We should strive for a society where everyone is treated equally, not based on their race or gender, but as individuals with equal rights and opportunities. We cannot achieve true equality if we keep dividing people into categories based on immutable characteristics. Instead of promoting identity politics, we should promote merit, hard work, and the value of personal responsibility. The speaker calls for stricter gun control laws, arguing that the right to own guns should be limited in order to reduce gun violence and promote public safety. The right to bear arms is enshrined in the Constitution, and it is a fundamental right that should not be infringed upon. The left's calls for stricter gun control only serve to punish law-abiding citizens and infringe on our constitutional rights, while doing little to address the root causes of gun violence. Criminals will always find a way to obtain weapons, regardless of laws. Gun control laws only disarm law-abiding citizens and make them more vulnerable to criminals. The focus should be on enforcing existing laws, not creating new ones that limit our freedoms. The vast majority of gun owners are responsible and law-abiding citizens who use their firearms for self-defense, recreation, and hunting. Stricter gun laws don't make us safer. They make us more dependent on the government and less capable of protecting ourselves. Instead of limiting gun rights, we should be focused on addressing the real causes of violence, such as mental health issues, a breakdown in family structures, and a lack of personal responsibility. We must also prioritize better enforcement of existing laws and allow law-abiding citizens to exercise their rights to protect themselves and their families. The speaker argues for universal health care, claiming that health care is a fundamental right that should be provided by the government to ensure everyone has access to medical care, regardless of their financial situation. While health care access is a critical issue, the solution is not government-run health care. The idea that the government should be in charge of health care is both inefficient and costly. The free market has proven to be the best way to deliver quality services and drive innovation, and health care should not be the exception. Universal health care often leads to long wait times, ration care, and a lack of incentives for doctors and healthcare providers to innovate and improve services. By relying on the government to dictate healthcare, we would be creating an even bigger bureaucratic system that would only further strain our economy and reduce the quality of care. The solution is not a one-size-fits-all government plan, but rather a market-based approach that focuses on competition, reducing regulatory burdens on healthcare providers, and expanding access to private insurance options. Healthcare should be about empowering individuals to make choices about their care, not forcing them into a system that is often inefficient and impersonal. The government's role should be in regulating healthcare to ensure transparency, safety, and competition, but it should not be in charge of providing care. When we allow the free market to function, we drive down costs, improve quality, and give individuals the freedom to choose the healthcare they need without waiting for a bureaucrat to approve it. The speaker advocates for more lenient immigration policies, arguing that the U.S. should open its doors to immigrants, particularly those seeking refuge and better opportunities in America. Immigration is a critical issue, but it's important that we approach it with common sense and a focus on protecting the interests of American citizens. The idea that we should have open borders or an unlimited flow of immigrants is not only unrealistic but also dangerous. Legal immigration should be the priority, and we should ensure that our immigration system is designed to benefit those who want to contribute to the American economy and culture. Open borders are a threat to national security and undermine the integrity of our legal immigration system. We need to secure our borders, ensure proper vetting, and prioritize legal immigration processes over illegal entry. Immigrants should be welcomed with open arms, but only those who come here legally, follow the law, and are committed to contributing to our society in a positive way. The illegal immigration crisis we face today creates a strain on our economy, healthcare system, and social services, and it sends the message that laws can be disregarded with impunity. While we should be compassionate toward those who are seeking refuge, we must also recognize the importance of maintaining the rule of law and ensuring that our immigration policies are in line with the interests of American citizens. We can be a nation of immigrants, but we must ensure that immigration policies serve the needs and security of the American people. The Speaker advocates for a more progressive education system, focusing on the importance of public education and ensuring equal access to quality education for all children. Public education, while important, has been failing our children for years, and the answer is not to keep throwing more money at it. The focus should be on empowering parents with more choices in education, not doubling down on a broken system. School choice, including charter schools, private schools, and homeschooling, has been proven to improve educational outcomes for children. The left's approach of throwing money at public schools and pushing for more government control only continues to perpetuate the status quo, which is not working for many families. We need to focus on education reforms that allow parents to make the best choices for their children, whether that's through school vouchers, tax credits, or expanding charter schools. Teachers and administrators are often constrained by bureaucracy and union rules, making it difficult for them to focus on what matters: teaching kids. School choice provides an incentive for schools to compete, innovate, and improve, ensuring that children get the education they deserve. The answer to improving education is not more government control or spending, but a system that provides parents with the freedom to choose the best educational options for their children. This will create competition, drive innovation, and ensure that every child has access to a high-quality education. The Speaker argues for higher taxes on the wealthy and corporations, claiming that this will lead to a more equitable society and provide the government with the necessary funds to invest in social programs.
This
Even
entire
today,
meeting, have you said thank
even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Oh,
Please, you think that if you will...
bro, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him, dude. Dude, I'm telling you right now. Okay, look, I think he's going to go back and some Azov freak is just going to kill him with a black sun tattoo. And then they're going to be actively aligned with the Trump admin. I don't know how that allegiance works, but this is insane, dude. This is actually insane. They're just gonna let it happen. First of all, I need you to understand. Right now, the entire coalition forces within Ukrainian boundaries are kept together because they all want to actively fight against Russia, understandably. But it's not like these guys are all fond of one another. Zelensky is Jewish. There's a lot of neo-Nazi forces out there who have gotten even more radicalized in the process, understandably, as when you get invaded, as I correctly predicted, you don't end up denazifying a country, you end up Nazifying the country. The most nationalist paramilitaries will be seen as the bravest, boldest warriors, the emancipatory forces. I'm worried that one of them is just going to murk this dude. Putin never said he was denazifying Ukraine. Yes, he did. What are you talking about? He said it over and over again. It was fucking bullshit.
Speak very loudly about the war.
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this.
I
You have a damn good chance of coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like.
God damn. This is the most. This is crazy. This is the craziest shit. I think this might be the craziest moment of the Trump administration so far, and it will most likely be topped tomorrow or the day after. We're a month and 8 days in. This is insane. We're not even 2 months in. This is 1 month in, dude. This is a shockingly bad display. A shockingly bad display. It is an active cuckening happening in real time.
Like this, I tell you.
Just
say thank you.
I said a lot of times thank you to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. You're people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take.
Like, even if this conversation was taking place behind closed doors, where Ukraine basically got geared up with all of the European support that it got into thinking that there is like still a process where they can continue defending the existing Ukrainian territory and maybe even cut side deals with European allies to forcibly send back the Ukrainian men, like the refugees that live in Europe, in an effort to basically bring up their ranks so that they can utilize the existing weapons that are being shipped in from the pre-existing security cooperations, pre-existing weapons deals. Even if there was a back and forth for that reason, behind closed doors, the fact that this is happening in broad daylight in front of a press pool, live streamed to the entire world, is legitimately shocking. Now, every single European leader, understandably, is going to come out against Donald Trump and come out in favor of Zelensky in this process. But ultimately, considering America's position as the leader of the Western coalition, the Western forces, as the hegemonic superpower, all of those leaders have actively said, we will defend Ukraine, but it doesn't really matter because if America doesn't actually follow through on security commitments, then us sending forces will not do anything. Keir Starmer has said that. I don't know if the EU in and of itself, especially when Trump is also looking to make Europe poorer with its tariffs, is going to be able to have active security commitments that they follow through on with Ukraine without American military support. If you guys have a bit of guts, you would say something to Trump and Vance. No, exactly. Dude, I don't know what the is going on. I feel like Trump is just like, I don't know how Trump is going to dig himself out of this in terms of like American standing with the rest of America's vassal states in Western Europe. If all you do in the Trump admin, the reasonable heads in the Trump admin, the reasonable hawks in the Trump admin are constantly playing catch up and playing defense for the insane shit that Trump says, you can get away with that. But when you turn around and renege on all of the economic harm that you put Europe through by forcibly telling them to cut their existing energy deals that they had with Russia as a consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and then turning around and being like, actually, all of that, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to say about it? Like, what is Europe going to do? What can Europe do? Let's say they want to rebuild their own militaries. There is so much runway. There is at least a decade of industrial buildup that must happen for them to actually get to a point where they can competently defend Ukraine or even themselves without the United States of America. Like, the second largest standing military in NATO after the United States of America is not France or Germany or any number of different countries. France's NATO allegiances have always been on shaky ground regardless. It's Turkey. It's not Poland. It's Turkey. That's the second largest military in NATO. It's Turkey. And we all know the Turkish-European relations, okay? It's just like, this is totally insane.
Take it.
Raising taxes on the wealthy and corporations is a short-sighted and counterproductive approach. The wealthy already contribute a significant portion of federal tax revenue, and raising their taxes only discourages investment, job creation, and innovation. Higher corporate taxes discourage businesses from expanding and creating jobs, ultimately hurting the economy and making it harder for middle-class families to prosper. Rather than raising taxes, we should focus on reducing them to stimulate growth and job creation. Tax cuts are not just for the wealthy. They benefit everyone. When businesses and individuals have more money to spend, they invest in the economy, create jobs, and contribute to economic growth. The goal should be to create a tax environment that encourages innovation and investment, not one that punishes success. The key to economic prosperity is not higher taxes, but fiscal responsibility and a government that is focused on reducing wasteful spending. We need to focus on making government more efficient and cutting unnecessary programs that drain resources, instead of taxing our way to economic growth. The speaker argues that urgent action is needed to combat climate change, advocating for government policies that prioritize environmental sustainability and green energy. While I do believe in taking care of our environment, the radical climate change agenda pushed by the left is not the solution. It often overlooks the impact on businesses, working-class Americans, and energy independence. The emphasis on green energy, while important in the long term, should not come at the expense of affordable and reliable energy sources like oil, gas, and coal. The government should not be picking winners and losers in the energy market. Rather than imposing burdensome regulations and trying to force a transition to green energy, we should allow the market to evolve naturally. Innovation in energy should come from private companies, not the government, which can be slow and inefficient in creating solutions. Climate change is a real issue, but the answer is not extreme government intervention that harms the economy. We need sensible policies that encourage environmental stewardship while also protecting American jobs and energy independence. Environmental regulations should be realistic and balanced to avoid putting the U.S. at a competitive disadvantage globally. The radical environmental policies being pushed by some on the left are unrealistic and economically damaging. We need a pragmatic approach that balances economic growth with environmental protection, not one that threatens to undermine our way of life. The speaker advocates for more gun control laws, suggesting that stricter regulations are necessary to reduce gun violence in America. The right to bear arms is a fundamental right enshrined in the Second Amendment. The argument for more gun control laws ignores the fact that criminals do not follow laws, and stricter regulations will only disarm law-abiding citizens while doing nothing to address the root causes of violence. Instead of more gun control, we should focus on enforcing the laws we already have and addressing the real causes of violence, such as mental health issues, crime, and the breakdown of the family. Gun ownership is not the problem. It's the misuse of firearms by individuals with ill intent that needs to be addressed. The left's obsession with banning certain types of firearms or imposing extreme restrictions fails to acknowledge that responsible gun owners are not the problem. We need to focus on providing law enforcement with the resources they need to address crime and on providing mental health support to those who need it. When people have the right to defend themselves and their families, they are safer. And that is what the Second Amendment is all about. Rather than stripping law-abiding citizens of their rights, we should be focusing on policies that promote responsible gun ownership and address the underlying issues of violence in society. The speaker argues that welfare programs are essential to support vulnerable populations, claiming that they provide a necessary safety net for those in need. While I agree that we need to support people who are truly in need, the welfare state has become a system that incentivizes dependency rather than self-sufficiency. The problem is not the existence of welfare, but the lack of emphasis on personal responsibility and the long-term sustainability of these programs. Welfare should be a temporary support system, not a permanent way of life. We need to create policies that encourage people to work, invest in their education, and contribute to society, rather than relying on government handouts. If people are incentivized to stay dependent on the government, they lose the drive to become self-sufficient. Reforming welfare is about finding a balance between helping those who truly need assistance and ensuring that people are not stuck in a cycle of dependency. We need to focus on policies that encourage work and self-improvement, like job training programs, tax incentives for businesses to hire, and welfare-to-work initiatives. The welfare system is not meant to replace personal responsibility. If we are to help those in need, we should focus on creating a path out of poverty, not a permanent safety net that keeps people reliant on government support. The speaker argues for police reform and defunding police departments in order to invest in community programs and address systemic issues within law enforcement. Defunding the police is not the solution to the problems we face with crime and law enforcement. In fact, it would make our communities less safe and place more strain on already overburdened police officers. Instead of defunding, we should focus on police reform that ensures accountability and better training for officers. Policing needs to be reformed, but not at the expense of law and order. The idea that we should reduce funding for police and rely on community programs is misguided. Law enforcement plays a critical role in maintaining public safety, and without them, crime rates would likely increase, putting our communities at risk. We should focus on reforming police practices where needed, such as improving training on de-escalation tactics and ensuring that officers are held accountable for misconduct. But we cannot ignore the fact that police officers are essential to maintaining public safety and order. The focus should be on providing better training and resources for law enforcement, not defunding them. Rather than cutting funding, we should support our police officers and give them the tools they need to succeed. A strong police presence is necessary for a functioning society, and we should ensure that law enforcement is both effective and accountable. The speaker calls for stricter controls on free speech, especially online, arguing that harmful speech, such as misinformation and hate speech, should be regulated by the government. Free speech is one of the most important rights we have in this country, and it is protected by the First Amendment. The idea that the government should regulate speech, especially online, is a direct threat to our democracy and individual freedoms. Censorship has been weaponized in recent years by tech companies and government entities to silence conservative voices and suppress free expression. Instead of restricting free speech, we should encourage more speech and debate, even if it's uncomfortable.
So the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire?
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
it doesn't
with
matter
me.
For you what,
that
what
wasn't with me.
Means.
That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with
Bro, I'm serious right now, straight up. If I'm a European leader, I'm learning Mandarin. I'm learning Mandarin pronto. It's time to go to the Chinese league, all right? The NBA is not cutting it. You're not cutting it in the NBA. Get ready to learn Chinese, Ursula von der Leyen. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kasia Kallas says, Ukraine is Europe. We stand by Ukraine. We will step up our support to Ukraine so that they can continue to fight to back the aggressor. Today it became clear that the free world needs a new leader. It's up to us Europeans to take the challenge. I will cop to one thing. I did not think that Donald Trump would actually actively undermine NATO. And I think he is doing that. And I think he's not even doing that because he just has like a legitimate plan to dismantle NATO piece by piece. I think he's doing that because he just keeps flying off the handles here. And he does not know how to behave like a normal politician. Straight up, pure ego, and also dick riders that are supposed to be the normalizing voice in the room. But even he's got the long red tie. Look at him. He looks like it looks like bring your child to work day. He just looks like a fucking fatter Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. in the room and not coked out.
President. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama.
I've often made fun of France because obviously, you know, they deserve it. But goddamn, dude, making sure that you have your own nuclear arsenal and pulling out of NATO before and having a consistently contentious relationship with NATO. What did they know? What did they know?
Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks these talks? What do we do then? I understand that.
By the way, low key, HasanAbi doctrine, don't give up the nukes, is literally the reason why this is happening. I know that you'll say, oh, those were USSR's nukes. They didn't have the active launch codes or anything like that. Yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. But I will repeat it for those of you who do not know. Rule 1, get nukes. Rule 2, do not give up the nukes. Rule 3, if you're accused of having nukes, drop everything immediately and find some nukes. Straight up. HasanAbi Doctrine, a guide for nation building. Yeah, do not give up the family atomics, dude. Yeah, also the other HasanAbi Doctrine that I'm that I'm putting on here is time to learn Mandarin. Don't give up
We cannot allow government or corporations to decide what can and cannot be said. The argument that we need to censor harmful speech opens the door to censorship of political views that those in power disagree with. We need to protect free speech from overreach, whether it's from the government, corporations, or any other entity. The solution is not more censorship but creating a space where people can engage in open dialogue and debate, where ideas can be freely exchanged, and where we can hold each other accountable through discussion, not silencing. Free speech is the foundation of our democracy, and we must defend it at all costs. The speaker discusses the need for comprehensive immigration reform, arguing that the U.S. should open its borders to immigrants and provide a path to citizenship for undocumented individuals. Immigration is a vital part of our nation's history, but we must have controlled, legal immigration that serves the interests of the American people. Open borders are not a responsible solution. We must prioritize national security and ensure that those who come to America do so legally and contribute to our society. We should have a system that allows immigrants to come in legally, while also ensuring that they respect our laws, pay taxes, and assimilate into American culture. Border security is crucial, and without it, we cannot ensure that illegal immigration does not undermine our economy or national security. The idea of providing amnesty or a quick path to citizenship for those who have broken the law by entering the country illegally sends the wrong message. We cannot reward illegal behavior, and such policies discourage legal immigration and undermine the rule of law. Immigration reform should focus on ensuring legal pathways for skilled workers and refugees, while cracking down on illegal immigration. We should prioritize the safety and economic well-being of American citizens first, ensuring that immigration policies serve the needs of the country, not undermine its integrity. The speaker argues for a universal healthcare system, claiming that healthcare is a right and should be accessible to all citizens regardless of their financial situation. While everyone deserves access to affordable healthcare, a government-run universal healthcare system is not the answer. Such a system would lead to increased taxes, decreased quality of care, and longer wait times for patients. The solution lies in expanding choice and competition in the healthcare system. We need policies that allow individuals to choose their own healthcare plans and providers, rather than forcing everyone into a one-size-fits-all government system. The private sector can drive innovation and efficiency, leading to better outcomes for everyone. The current healthcare system has its problems, but creating a government-run system would make things worse. We should focus on reducing healthcare costs through market-driven reforms like health savings accounts, HSAs, cross-state insurance purchases, and lowering prescription drug prices through competition. The idea of free healthcare always comes with a price tag, and that price is often paid by taxpayers in the form of higher taxes and decreased quality. Instead of a government takeover, we need reforms that empower individuals to make their own healthcare decisions and encourage competition to lower costs. The speaker advocates for increased funding in public schools, suggesting that the education system needs more investment to properly educate the next generation. Throwing more money at public schools is not the answer. What we need is a fundamental overhaul of the education system to prioritize results, not just funding. Many schools receive significant funding but still underperform due to mismanagement and bureaucratic inefficiencies. We should focus on empowering parents by giving them more choices, such as school vouchers or charter schools. Competition in education is key to improving outcomes, and allowing parents to choose the best schools for their children will create better incentives for improvement. We also need to focus on promoting educational standards that prioritize knowledge and critical thinking, not ideological indoctrination. Schools should be places of learning, not platforms for political activism. Rather than increasing funding to failing systems, we should reform the way schools are run and ensure that the money already allocated is being used efficiently. Education is a state and local issue, not something that should be micromanaged by the federal government. The speaker suggests raising taxes on the wealthy in order to fund social programs and reduce income inequality in America. The speaker suggests raising taxes on the wealthy in order to fund social programs and reduce income inequality in America. The speaker advocates for a more interventionist foreign policy, arguing that the U.S. should use its influence to promote democracy and human rights across the globe. While I believe in promoting democracy and human rights, it's important to remember that America's role in the world should not be about constant intervention in every conflict. We should prioritize our national interests and focus on protecting American sovereignty rather than trying to solve every global issue. Interventionist foreign policies often lead to unintended consequences and unnecessary entanglements. We should learn from the mistakes of the past, like in the Middle East, and focus on diplomacy, trade, and defense rather than trying to impose democracy through force. America's strength comes from its ability to lead by example and promote peace through diplomacy and strong alliances, not through endless wars and interventions. We should support our allies, but we should also be cautious about getting involved in conflicts that do not serve our national interest. The focus should be on strengthening America's military and economic position, ensuring that we are capable of defending ourselves and our interests without relying on perpetual foreign interventions. The goal should be to maintain peace through strength, not to act as the world's policeman. The speaker discusses climate change, emphasizing the need for urgent action to combat the environmental crisis. They advocate for drastic measures such as reducing carbon emissions and transitioning to renewable energy sources. Climate change is a real issue, but we must approach it with a level of caution and a focus on practical, sustainable solutions. The radical measures being proposed, such as completely dismantling our energy sector, will lead to job losses, economic instability, and an energy crisis. Instead of imposing sweeping regulations and crushing businesses with energy mandates, we should focus on technological innovation. The free market, not government mandates, will drive the development of clean energy solutions that are both effective and economically viable. We must balance environmental concerns with economic realities. The idea that we should abruptly transition away from fossil fuels without a clear, reliable alternative puts our economy at risk. We can achieve environmental goals without sacrificing jobs or energy security, and the government should not pick winners and losers in the energy sector. Policies should prioritize energy independence, support for nuclear energy, and innovation in clean technology, rather than restricting our access to affordable, reliable energy sources. We need a pragmatic approach that takes into account both environmental protection and the economic well-being of Americans. The speaker advocates for stronger gun control laws, suggesting that stricter regulations on firearms are necessary to reduce violence and improve safety. The right to own firearms is enshrined in the Constitution, and any attempt to restrict it infringes upon our fundamental freedoms. Gun ownership is a vital part of American culture and an essential aspect of personal liberty. Rather than imposing more restrictions on law-abiding citizens, we should focus on enforcing existing laws and addressing the root causes of violence, such as mental health issues and societal breakdown. Stricter gun control laws often disarm responsible individuals, while doing little to prevent criminals from obtaining weapons. The problem is not guns. It's the individuals who misuse them. Gun violence will not be stopped by taking away the rights of lawful citizens. Instead, we should focus on education, mental health care, and ensuring that those who have criminal intent cannot legally purchase firearms. The Second Amendment is clear, and the government has no right to infringe upon it. The solution is not more regulations but greater respect for individual rights, and a focus on public safety measures that actually work. The speaker supports the idea of defunding the police, arguing that resources should be redirected towards social services and community-based initiatives to reduce crime. Defunding the police is an irresponsible and dangerous policy. Law enforcement is essential for maintaining public safety, and weakening the police force will only lead to higher crime rates and more harm to vulnerable communities. Instead of defunding the police, we should focus on reforms that improve policing practices, enhance accountability, and ensure that law enforcement officers are trained to handle complex situations effectively. But dismantling the police force altogether is not the answer. We need to support our police officers and ensure that they have the resources and support they need to keep our communities safe. Reducing funding for law enforcement will only embolden criminals and make it harder for officers to protect innocent people. Public safety should always be the top priority. Instead of defunding the police, we should invest in programs that support law enforcement, improve community relations, and focus on crime prevention through proactive measures. The speaker argues for stronger protections for free speech, claiming that the government should limit censorship to ensure that all voices can be heard, even controversial ones. Free speech is a fundamental right, and we must protect it against both government overreach and corporate censorship. While there should be consequences for harmful or illegal speech, The government should never censor speech simply because it is unpopular or controversial. Social media platforms, big tech companies, and even public institutions have increasingly attempted to silence conservative voices. This is a dangerous trend that threatens the very essence of democracy and free discourse. We must fight against these efforts and uphold the right of every American to speak their mind without fear of retribution. The solution is not more censorship or government regulation, but rather a commitment to free expression and the open exchange of ideas. We need to push back against the growing culture of canceling and silencing individuals simply because their views are different. Protecting free speech is essential for a healthy society. Without it, we lose the ability to have honest debates, challenge ideas, and hold those in power accountable. We must defend the right to speak freely, even when it's uncomfortable or controversial. The Speaker supports affirmative action policies, arguing that they are necessary to level the playing field and ensure equal opportunities for historically marginalized groups. Affirmative action creates division and resentment, rather than equality. Policies that favor one group over another based on race or ethnicity undermine the principle of meritocracy. People should be judged by their abilities and character, not by the color of their skin. True equality means treating everyone fairly, regardless of their race or background. Affirmative action perpetuates racial division and does not address the root causes of inequality. Instead of focusing on race-based preferences, we should focus on providing opportunities through education, job training, and economic empowerment. The idea of giving special treatment to certain groups is not equality, it's reverse discrimination. It punishes people for factors outside of their control and divides us as a society. We should strive for a colorblind society where individuals succeed based on their hard work and qualifications, not because of government mandates. Instead of affirmative action, we should promote policies that help all individuals, regardless of their background, succeed based on their abilities and merit. This is the true path to equality. The Speaker advocates for increased funding for public schools and the expansion of state-sponsored programs to improve education for underprivileged communities. While improving education for all is a shared goal, throwing more money at the public school system is not the solution. We need real, meaningful reforms to empower parents and students to make choices that best suit their needs, such as expanding school choice, charter schools, and voucher programs. The education system is failing many students, especially in low-income and urban areas, and the status quo simply isn't working. Bureaucratic control over schools often stifles innovation and keeps children trapped in failing schools. Parents should have the right to choose the best educational option for their children, whether it's a private school, charter school, or homeschooling. Instead of relying on top-down government funding, we should allow the free market to provide diverse educational opportunities. School choice empowers parents to make decisions that are best for their children and encourages competition among schools to improve education standards. We need to reform teacher unions, which often prioritize their own interests over the needs of students. If we're serious about improving education, we need to put students first and dismantle the barriers that prevent real reform from happening. The Speaker calls for a more inclusive approach to immigration, suggesting that the U.S. should offer more pathways to citizenship for undocumented immigrants and open the borders to people seeking asylum. While immigration is important, we cannot ignore the importance of securing our borders. The current policy of open borders is unsustainable and puts national security at risk. The U.S. needs to take a strong stance on securing its borders and ensuring that immigration is legal, controlled, and orderly. Amnesty for undocumented immigrants undermines the rule of law and sends the wrong message, that the U.S. will tolerate illegal entry into the country. Immigration must be done through legal channels, with proper vetting to ensure that those who enter are law-abiding, contribute to society, and don't strain public services. Instead of offering blanket amnesty, we need to prioritize border security, enforce immigration laws, and protect American citizens from illegal immigration. It's crucial that we invest in technology, increase border patrol, and ensure that our immigration system is working for the benefit of American citizens, not undermining their safety or economic well-being. Immigration is a privilege, not a right, and it must be done in a way that respects the laws of the country and the interests of its citizens. Border security is national security, and no country can thrive if it loses control over who enters its territory. The Speaker argues for a single-payer healthcare system, suggesting that it is the government's responsibility to ensure universal access to healthcare for all citizens, regardless of income. Healthcare is an essential service, but the government's role should be limited to ensuring that people have access to quality care, not controlling the entire system. A single-payer system would lead to longer wait times, reduced quality of care, and an overall decline in healthcare outcomes. The free market is the best way to improve healthcare. By allowing competition, we can drive down costs, encourage innovation, and ensure that people have access to the care they need when they need it. Government-run healthcare would stifle these innovations and lead to inefficiencies that harm patients. Instead of a single-payer system, we should focus on reforms that increase competition, lower healthcare costs, and empower individuals to make decisions about their healthcare. We need to promote health savings accounts, HSAs, reduce government mandates, and allow people to purchase insurance across state lines. The government should focus on creating a system that fosters competition and choice, not taking control of the healthcare system. More government control over healthcare will only make the problems worse, not better. The speaker calls for an expansion of welfare programs, arguing that more support is needed for the poor and disadvantaged to break the cycle of poverty. While we should help those who are truly in need, expanding welfare programs without addressing the root causes of poverty will only create more dependency. A welfare state that provides endless support without conditions leads to a lack of personal responsibility and long-term economic harm. The goal of any welfare program should be to help individuals get back on their feet, not to create a permanent class of dependent individuals. Rather than expanding welfare, we should focus on policies that promote self-sufficiency, such as job training programs, tax incentives for businesses to hire low-income workers, and education initiatives to provide people with the skills they need to thrive. We need to reform welfare programs to ensure they encourage work, responsibility, and self-reliance. A strong safety net is important, but it should be a temporary support system, not a permanent way of life. The best way to reduce poverty is through economic growth, job creation, and empowering individuals to take control of their own futures. More government assistance is not the answer. We need policies that reduce dependency and encourage upward mobility. The speaker advocates for higher taxes on the wealthy and large corporations, arguing that they should pay their fair share to fund government programs and reduce inequality. High taxes on the wealthy and businesses are not the answer to reducing inequality. In fact, they often hurt the economy by discouraging investment, job creation, and economic growth. Lower taxes, on the other hand, create an environment where businesses can grow, hire more people, and increase wages. The key to reducing inequality is not more government redistribution, but fostering an economy that provides opportunities for everyone to succeed. By reducing taxes, we can give people the tools they need to build wealth, save for the future, and improve their standard of living. Taxing businesses heavily also discourages them from expanding, leading to job losses and reduced economic growth. Instead of raising taxes, we should focus on tax cuts that incentivize businesses to invest in the economy, innovate, and create jobs. The goal should be to create a tax system that is simple, fair, and encourages economic growth. We need to shift away from the idea that raising taxes on the wealthy will solve our problems. The solution is creating an environment where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, regardless of their income level.